There's a library on the far side of the playground. Not the regular one. Not the one near the swings. This one's special. The loudest kid on the playground, the one whose allowance is bigger than everyone else's combined. He built it. Actually, he built 6 of them, all in one spot, on a piece of land called Education City. Georgetown, Carnegie Mellon, Northwestern, Cornell Medicine, Texas A&M, NYU, all real, all built with real money, all full of kids who flew across the playground to read books and learn things. Over 4,000 students sitting in classrooms in the middle of someone else's neighborhood. And yesterday, a note slid under the door. The kid who's been building something in the basement, Iran, looked at those libraries and said, word for word, these are now legitimate targets. He gave a deadline. Monday, noon, Tehran time. And he told every student, every teacher, every person living near those buildings, stay at least 1 kilometer away. Let me explain. Like you're 5. Now, before you understand why someone would threaten a library, you need to understand why the library is there in the first place. See, the kids who live in the Gulf, Qatar, the Emirates, Bahrain, they have something the whole playground needs. The black stuff. Oil. Gas. The fuel that makes everything work. But here's what they figured out a long time ago. The black stuff runs out. So Qatar, the small kid with a lot of gas money, made a bet. He said, I'm going to build a school, not just any school, the best school. I'm going to invite the smartest kids from the other side of the playground to come teach here, and one day when the gas runs out, we'll still have something valuable. Knowledge. He built Education City, 12 square kilometers, 1 campus, 6 American universities. Paid them hundreds of millions to set up shop. And the big kid? He said yes. Because it wasn't just about teaching. Think about it. If your libraries are in someone else's neighborhood, your ideas are in someone else's neighborhood. Your language, your culture, your way of thinking, that's not charity. That's a footprint. And footprints, they can become targets, but nobody worried about that. Because who would threaten a library? Here's who. Remember the kid who's been building something in the basement? Iran, the one whose house has been getting bombed for the past month? Well, during the strikes, the ones that hit military bases and oil ports, something else got hit too. 2 Iranian universities, labs smashed, classrooms flattened, decades of research gone. And Iran said, you destroyed our schools, now look at yours. That's the thing about fights on this playground. They start with toys, they move to roads, then to water, then to factories. And eventually, they get to the one place everyone thought was safe. The library. Now, let me tell you about a kid named Sarah. Sarah is 18. She's from Ohio. She flew 8,000 miles to study journalism at Northwestern's Qatar campus. She moved into a dorm in Education City. She made friends. She started writing stories. And in the middle of March, 2 weeks ago, a knock on her door at midnight. Pack your bags, you're being evacuated. She wasn't taken to a shelter. She was taken to a hotel because the campus wasn't safe anymore. Students from Northwestern, Carnegie Mellon, Georgetown, all moved out, some in the middle of the night. She came here to learn how to write the news. She ended up living it. And then yesterday, it got worse. Iran's Revolutionary Guard, think of them as the kid's older brother, the one who actually controls the scary stuff, issued a public statement. 3 demands. 1. The United States must officially condemn the bombing of Iranian universities. 2. The condemnation must happen before noon on Monday, Tehran time. 3. If it doesn't happen, American and Israeli university campuses in the Gulf become, quote, legitimate targets. And then they added one more thing. A warning to the students. Maintain a distance of at least 1 kilometer from American or Israeli campuses. 1 kilometer. That's how close the fight just got to the books. Now, here's where it gets layered. Because the question everyone's asking is this real or is this a bluff? Think about the kid from Iran's position. His house has been bombed for a month. His oil port is damaged. His factories are hit. His universities are rubble. He's losing the physical fight. So what do you do when you're losing the fight with your fists? You fight with fear. You don't have to actually blow up the library. You just have to make everyone believe you might. Because the moment 4,000 students panic and book flights home, the moment parents in Ohio and Texas and New York start calling their senators, you've turned the big kid's own people against him. That's not a military strategy. That's a playground strategy. But here's the part nobody talks about, and it's the part that should scare you the most. There's a word for what happens when you destroy schools on purpose during a fight. Scholasticide. It's not a word most people know, but the grown-ups who study wars, they know it well. It means the deliberate, systematic destruction of education, not as collateral damage, not as an accident, as a weapon. And it's happened before. In 1988, almost 40 years ago, during a fight on this same playground, Israel ordered every Palestinian university closed. Not for a semester, for 4 years. An entire generation couldn't go to school. You know what those kids did? They didn't stop learning. They went underground. Literally. They created secret classrooms in basements, cells of education, small groups hidden from the patrols, studying by flashlight. Knowledge survived. But the scars didn't heal. And now, inches 2026, we're watching the same pattern from both sides. Iranian universities hit in the strikes, the threat to hit American ones back. Education isn't the victim of this war, it's becoming the battlefield. If this just made you see this war in a completely different way, send this video to someone who thinks this fight is only about oil and missiles. Because it's not anymore. Now, here's the uncomfortable truth. Those libraries in the Gulf, they're not neutral. This is the part that's going to make some people angry. But it's the truth, and this channel doesn't skip the uncomfortable stuff. American universities in the Gulf were never just about education. They're soft power, the biggest kid's quietest weapon. When Georgetown teaches diplomacy in Doha, those students learn to see the world through an American lens. When Carnegie Mellon teaches computer science in Qatar, the code gets written in American logic. When Northwestern trains journalists, the stories get told in American style. That's not evil, it's strategy, and Qatar wanted it too. He paid for it. He wanted his kids to learn from the best. He wanted to build an economy that doesn't die when the gas runs out. But here's what nobody planned for. What happens to those libraries when the big kid starts a fight next door? Suddenly, the libraries aren't just libraries. They're extensions of the big kid. They carry his name, his flag, his brand. And to the kid getting bombed, to Iran, those libraries look less like schools and more like outposts. The books didn't change, but the meaning did. So here's where we are. The first video in this series was about a kid whose toys got smashed. The second was about water being cut off. The third was about a road. The fourth was about a house that got torn down. This one is about a library. That should terrify you, because in any fight, the library is supposed to be the last thing standing, the place nobody touches, the one corner of the playground where the rules still hold, and now someone slid a note under the door. Maybe it's a bluff. Maybe Iran will never actually touch those campuses. Maybe the deadline passes and nothing happens. But here's what already happened, and this is the part you can't undo. 4,000 students know that their classroom is on a target list. Parents in 6 countries are refreshing the news. Northwestern has a contract with a company called Global Rescue. Their job is to evacuate students on charter flights if things go bad. The library is still standing, but the feeling of safety, that's already gone. Because that's what happens when a fight goes too far. It doesn't just break toys and block roads and cut off water. It breaks the one thing that's supposed to survive every war, the right to learn. And right now, on this playground, that right has a deadline. Monday. Noon. Tehran time. The bell is about to ring. See you in the playground.